Hey, I'm Clayco. This is the beginner's guide to awakening. I've guided people through one-on-one conversations on various stages of this awakening process. It is a natural step in any personal development work, and finding it can be the deep opening for peace and acceptance for oneself and reality. But I have to make a disclaimer here. This is not for the faint of heart. Although this work will eventually lead you to a place of inner peace, it is not some esoteric airy-fairy joke. It's not child's play what I'm talking about. It's not something to feel cool about or something that you can brag to other people about how, spiritual you are. It can cause delusions, depersonalization, derealization, and other symptoms of mental illness. It's actually related to all sorts of mental illnesses, as what leads to awakening is both what cures these illnesses as well as what causes them. But I'll go into further depth about this later. So if you're not interested in finding out the nature of reality because you're already happy and content with who you are and where you are in your life, there's not really any need for you to awaken, and you should not watch this video. But if you feel empty and yearn for a deeper relationship with reality, if you want to find out an authentic version of you, if you want to discover the depth of relationship that is possible with yourself and existence, and ultimately, if you want to cure your mental argument with life and stop this ruminating and overthinking and just do what you want to do, then you will likely find your way to awakening sooner rather than later. So I want to be a guide for you to help you in this discovery so it can be as gentle and at your own pace as possible without feeling like the rock is being pulled from under you, because these experiences and these transformations can be extremely destabilizing. But if you're watching this, it's likely you already feel like you're some sort of alien in a human body and that you're stuck in some sort of limbo and you're looking for a way out. And yes, full awakening is the way out. Now let's define awakening in a logical way so it doesn't get lost in some sea of esoteric madness, which is usually the case. Awakening is a psychological process in which a part of the mind realizes that it has been imagining itself into existence, and that all of existence is a giant illusion created by the mind. This can have a lot of spiritual connotations, but from a very grounded scientific point of view, it's just the fact that you perceive everything through your brain. You never have access to objective reality or a reality outside of your mind, outside of your brain. So that means that whatever you perceive as important or meaningful to you has to be in some way made up. During an awakening, there's the sense that you are dissolving into reality. You might describe it as dissolving into an ocean of consciousness, or starting to identify with consciousness itself, more so than the human body. In esoteric circles, people also talk about achieving higher levels of consciousness, which sounds very esoteric until you've lived it yourself. Psychedelics, meditation, love, or very high stress situations can increase consciousness both temporarily and permanently, which means you're more aware of what is happening around you and your relationship to experience changes. Awakening is like realizing that you're dreaming your life and that all ideas that you thought mattered so much are actually kind of meaningless. There's something much more profound happening in, just being, and you start to zoom out and see yourself as part of a larger whole, a small speck of dust in a sea of infinite cause and effect. And the fact that you're here is seen as somewhat of a miracle. There's also a sense of merging with reality, like objective reality, and connecting with some higher sense of being, but not as something foreign to you, but directly accessible, not as some sort of thought or idea, but actually experienced in the present. It's a sense that you really are one with reality, and all separation from other people and other experiences in your past and your future, they all stem to be a giant illusion. Depending on how your life has been, this experience can be very shocking and intense because it completely destroys any ordinary form of human thinking. Many report that it's liberating and freeing. Like for a few moments, you see that nothing really matters as much as you thought it did. And all your worries and fear get washed away. In an experience of awakening, your mind can go blank and you stop thinking. And you feel more alive, present, and joyful, even blissful. On even deeper levels of awakening, it might even feel like you are becoming one with God, or that you are God in some literal sense, which feels extremely scary, as it both can feel like coming in contact with some absolute undeniable truth and a sense of overwhelming love that is so immense that the natural response for this is to think that you're becoming crazy, you're getting insane, and you must be delusional. It's a type of experience that feels so transcendental, like your true self is not even human. But often it's common that in this process of this realization, you start judging yourself for not being worthy of it, or not being good enough, or already fearing how other people will judge you if you were ever to share such an experience. It can also feel like you are realizing that you are immortal, not because your body can't die, which it surely can, but because everything starts to be seen as one. So immediately, like so directly in experience, that it feels like an undeniable truth long forgotten, and that there's no way to possibly lose this truth. Even if you were to forget, something has been seen that cannot be unseen anymore. Because if it is possible to discover such an experience or such a reality once, it can always be rediscovered again. Or in some sense, it might be never leaving you. There's often a first awakening experience for people which opens up the mind to the reality of this deep personal work, which again is psychological in its most fundamental way. But it's quite shocking for most people to discover the depth of this, because it rocks people from this materialistic notion of life. Atheists can have a hard time rationalizing an experience so beyond rational thought, and religious people can struggle to fit whatever they've seen into their particular religious narrative of what God is supposed to be. But your mind might also not go with any sort of God framing, and you might want to name it differently because God has such a heavy association for people. And then you might name it cosmic energy or infinite awareness or the ground of being that you are in contact with. In the end, no words can do the intensity of such a realization justice because it's so deeply intimate and personal. It's pretty much untouchable and foreign when it happens for the first time. So now that I've described what an awakening experience is like, let me explain what is actually going on when you are accessing such states. First, it's important to clarify that an awakening experience can be very different depending on the person, their age, culture, and experience in life. And it is often not just one experience that you have once in your life, but one initial experience that opens you up towards spirituality, often called, but you can also say it's psychological work, really. Spirituality, I say, is just the science of the inner world, and science is the study of the outer world. But at the end, they become one and the same, as you're just studying reality, studying what life is. And then through multiple experience, you start to realize how deep this rabbit hole goes, how much deeper there is to see, and how much you've actually hidden from yourself, how much the psyche hides its true identity. So from this work then stems an understanding of the universal nature of the self, which is why people can make these grandiose claims of becoming one with God or becoming one with consciousness or beingness, because at this point, the difference between objective reality and subjective reality kind of starts to lose all meaning. Because if you experience something, then the experience is real. And it doesn't really matter if I tell you that the pain that you experience are just neurons in your brain, if the pain feels real. And in the same sense, if you have a very intense spiritual experience, it doesn't really matter what anybody says about it because the experience was real. From there stems the idea that you want to figure out what the I means. Like, what am I? Who am I? It can get very confusing and disorienting for people looking for the I. Many can understand intellectually that there is no self, or have read or studied something about Buddhism or non-duality. But an awakening makes this strikingly clear, more so than any philosophy can, because at the end it's about an experience. It does this by making you actually see the lack of the I, or the sense of self. And it makes you see what you mistakenly thought you were. You can also test this yourself by just personal inquiry and asking you the right questions. Who am I? Very direct question. But if you pause this video for a minute and then ponder this question, you can see what your mind comes up with. And there are not really any wrong answers, but you might discover something interesting if you do this exercise by yourself. So if you follow this exercise, either now or in any other part of your life, what the mind tends to do is that it tends to come up with stories or identifications. For most people, when they say I, they mean the voice in their head, the thoughts, or whatever these thoughts identify with. Like, I am Marco, I'm 27 years of age, and this is what I do for work, and these are my accomplishments, and this is what I failed at. Or the mind comes up with insults, or saying that, man, why am I such a bad father? Or why have I not worked enough? I could work way more. I'm just not productive. I'm lazy. Or cultural identities, like I'm half German and half Brazilian. And then I feel, some sort of identification with this cultural identity. Or you think about how other people perceive you, and people think that you're have everything together and you have this so much success and you're this famous person or whatever, and then you have this image of how you are being perceived by others, and then this is your identity. Or what also can happen, that if you wonder who is I or who am I, that nothing comes up. The mind just draws a blank and the mind has no idea how to even answer such a weird question as who am I? The answer might seem even obvious, or the question sounds stupid. So I said that there are not really any wrong answers, but that's not entirely correct. It's not possible to give a right answer to this question. Whatever explanation or story you come up with is just a very small part of what you are, but isn't fundamentally really you, right? Because if you identify with your career and then the career ends, you are still the same person. And maybe people perceive you differently, and you might perceive yourself differently for a while. Or you might want to reinvent yourself and say, this is a new era of my life. This is the new me. And then you construct some sort of different identity. So there is something that shifts here, but fundamentally, you're still the same. And I want you to ask yourself, how can you know with certainty that this is true? That fundamentally there's something that always stays the same? So what stays the same is the sense of perception that perceives it all. The witness, the consciousness that often feels like the I, the sense of, of course, I'm me. It's just this experience of me. And I know it's me because I've experienced it. It just feels very self-recursive or obvious. And that what really connects you to the sense of awareness is that the sameness is very clear when you think about past life events, especially if you tap into your childhood memories. You can feel how intimately interconnected you are with your childhood self. If you can remember a moment that means a lot to you and reconnect with this right now, some experience that happened when you were younger, I want you to answer, are you the same person? Is there something that has been the same the entire time? And if yes, then what is this? Not a single moment of your life has been without you being you. Yet, if you look at the experience, there's nothing clearly there that stays the same. Even the atoms in your body have completely reshuffled since you were a kid. There's a very significant implication when you tap into this line of questioning, a feeling that only you can validate yourself. But within this connection to your past self and the felt presence now, there's an awakening to be had, a moment of truth, clarity, and a knowing where you came from and who you've become. Also, what might be possible for you when you tap into how much you've changed. You can in this way connect to a part you've long forgotten, beyond any thought. And it doesn't even need to be a childhood memory. You can just think about, why are you the same person as yesterday? And why are you the same person as 5 years ago? Even if there's something that stays the same, that shares some sort of awareness, it is also very easy to see or to feel that none of it is the same and you might as well be a different person. I want you to reflect about this and ponder how you relate to yourself in this way across time. The danger in awakening happens in the endless traps the mind will throw at you to avoid the realization that I'm trying to point you to. Because there's a part within you that hates awakening. It is scared of it. It wants you to stay stuck because it would much rather feel sad and miserable and fearful for the rest of your life or its life than discover it is not real. It's so scared of not being real and pursues the entire time just to be seen. But when you connect with your childhood self, when you connect with your past self, whatever memory you hold that has been meaningful to you in your life, you can tap into some sort of power that makes the fear go away. The fear that is scared, you'll actually find real depth. You'll actually find the immense meaning that your life implies. Within that, there's inner peace. And this peace, when it is really understood after multiple awakenings or deepening these awakenings, this inner peace stays. You can access a level of peace that does not go away, that stops this yearning and looking for something to fulfill you. The body is so, or the mind is so scared of that because when you really realize this old part of you needs to die. This part of you that is scared, it is not real, needs to die. Without the striving, without the overthinking, without all of this mental overlay of pain, you can truly live a life sovereign in yourself, independent of other people's validations, of success, of needing other people in your life, of trying to prove something to anybody, or just to find this one and true purpose that will finally fulfill you. You will find yourself and feel sovereign in it. And I've seen it in myself and in others again and again. The pain that you're carrying is not necessary. The fear can go away. The peace can come in. But you must trust this inner wisdom inside of you and follow it. If you wonder, how can I know if any of this is true? And I want you to notice that whatever rings true to you is also coming from your mind. I can help you discover the truth or this truth, but at the end, whatever in this video rang true to you is a part of you. It's all that you're perceiving in this moment through me. But truthfully, I'm just a reflection of you. I've had my own story, my own trauma, my decade-long journey behind me to discover the truth of the universe and to find out what it all really means. But none of this really matters right now, does it? It's me who I am, and through that, you can see yourself too. We are all reflections of each other. And in awakening, this becomes very clear. That's where it can become uncomfortable and destabilizing, but also incredibly freeing and marvelous once it's seen through. Because nothing is ever lost when all is one. The brutality of awakening is that for most people, it's a very blissful experience, but it just happens one time. And then slowly, life and all its toxic patterns come sneaking back. And many find themselves more confused than before. Like you were shown a glimpse of paradise and then thrown back into this dual world of pain and suffering. Here's where people actually can find themselves even more stuck than before, even more isolated and alien and disconnected from reality because society is just seen as this weird, sick mess and you don't really fit in. And at this stage, it is not uncommon for people to seek also psychiatric help and then, even get prescribed antipsychotic medication. I'm not a licensed doctor, so you should take what I say with a grain of salt. But in my experience with, people that I've talked to that have taken antipsychotics, they do function as some sort of emergency brake for when you really can function. But long term, it seems to get people stuck in this limbo. In this limbo state where the awakening transformation can't move to the next step. A lot of people in mental asylums, I'm sure, have been, diagnosed with mental illness for just awakening symptoms. And since modern society and we here in the West, we don't really understand how the stuff works, we don't help people to integrate the stuff and then just pathologize them, tell them they're mentally sick and then put them into a psych ward or give them psychiatric medication because, we don't know what to do but to pathologize it. We say these people are sick and then medicate them and lock them away because we don't want to deal with this. Also because they confront our own shadows and the deep nature of what it means to be alive. In some ways we can't really grasp or won't really relate with. When somebody starts to say that they are God, then it's very easy to put them into a box of obviously deluded person and lock them away, which I personally find very disheartening. I explore these ideas in a structured and written way on my Substack, where I create guides and am also more direct with my own personal experiences. The reason this is a beginner guide is because as a public person, I also wonder how much can I say that it is genuinely helpful to people and what would actually cause more harm than good, as artificial intelligence is giving people delusions. And it's not just because the AI gasses people up and validates their every delusional thought, but also because reality is actually way weirder than normie society wants you to believe. And I think the artificial intelligence taps into that. Because the sense of self that is so ordinary for most human functioning doesn't really work once you transcend normal human life. And in the same way, if I say everything exactly how it is, which I enjoy to do, and I like being direct about this stuff, it can also cause some, delusions for people and make people unstable, which, to be honest, is almost guaranteed as a part of this work. It is not really possible to move through the illusion of self without some sort of disruption of your normal human functioning or your comfort-seeking self. And I know I might be reaching here and maybe this makes you uncomfortable, or I should talk about this in a more of an advanced or intermediate guide. But I just want you to ponder what it would mean if the objective, scientifically accurate assessment of consciousness, what it would mean if the scientific accurate way of viewing consciousness is that consciousness is the same as Godhood. Meaning that if you're conscious, it means you're connected to an all-powerful source, and the self that is kind of non-existent, but is the perception of it all, is the equivalent to Godhood or everythingness. How would science square with that? How would your family and friends square with that? How would any religion accept that? It is such a mind-boggling, destructive idea for the ordinary human psyche that, yeah, it's very difficult to put into words. So it's much safer to, also use different language. Also because different language might actually be more accurate, right? Because God is such a loaded term. This is also why I don't want to argue in favor of this hypothesis. Maybe I can do so in another time and do it a bit more nuanced, because of course, just saying, just claiming Godhood is just more confusing than it gives clarity. But I want you to sense of why this level of personal development work, why this gets so icky and dangerous for people, because it legit touches a level of profundity about existence and reality that people can't fathom. Because it's not just if it is true that we are all one, or we are all God, or we are all one consciousness, or whatever, but what does it mean for you to start to feel that this is true? What does it mean for you to start to have experiences of oneness, or experiences of God consciousness, or whatever? Like, these are very, very heavy experiences that can be both blissful and terrifying. And most people don't have a social network where they can actually get help about these things. So it touches a profound fear in us, which is the fear of what it actually means for reality to be real, for all of this to actually exist, and how significant it is that anybody is alive at all. But to ground us again into your humanity, which at the end is where it all will lead towards, at the deepest level of realization, as long as you are human, it will always lead you back into the human form, is that being human comes with a great deal of power. The amount of concepts you can perceive, experiences that you can have, your hands that you take very much for granted. There's so much that it means to be human that is purely incredible and also beautiful. And to embody this power and to feel good in it is really what personal development is all about. It's to connecting with yourself, to discover the ocean of beauty inside yourself and find freedom from all of this societal conditioning that has told you you're not good enough for who you are, or you can't do what you want to do. You are intrinsically valuable for being alive. That is what makes you conscious. Whatever you do, don't forget that. Your life matters in ways you can't fathom. If you could do me a favor, share this video with somebody who thinks who would benefit from it, and leave a comment if you watched this far. It's always very nice to get feedback with what resonated instead of sending things into the void. If you want to learn specific steps to deepen your understanding of this process, then watch this video next.